Hey, it's Crystal. Today we are making the Trento fingerless gloves, and these are just little knit gloves that are knit flat and then seamed up on the sides, and it's a multiple size pattern. So I am going to work up the child size for this video tutorial, and I'll let you know the cast-ons and the lengths and everything for the other sizes. To knit these gloves, you'll need 4.5 size needles for the ribbing, which we're starting with here. And then when we get to the hand portion, we're going to switch to our 5mm US size 8 needles. I'm using circulars, but it is knit flat. And we'll need some number 4 medium worsted weight yarn. For toddler size, you'll need about 40 yards of yarn, child 63 yards, teen small adult 90 yards, and medium adult 113 yards, large adult 120 yards. Okay, to knit these gloves, you'll need to cast on a multiple of 4 plus 2 more. For the toddler size, we are going to cast on 22. For the child size, 26. For the teen small adult, 30. For the medium and large adult, for the medium, 34, and for the large adult, 38. I have already cast on. You can use any cast on to do these. Again, we're going to start with a 1x1 ribbing, and then we will adjust our needle size from there. So for the toddler size, you are going to knit ribbing for 2 inches, and that goes for toddler, child, and teen small adult. For the medium and large adult, you're going to work 3 inches of ribbing. So we're just going to start with a knit 1, purl 1 ribbing. So I'm going to knit the first stitch, then I'm going to purl the second stitch. Then I'm repeating that across. Knit 1, purl 1. Okay, we'll end with a purl stitch. So now we're going to turn, and it's a 1 row repeat. So now we are going to knit the knits and purl the purls, and we'll continue that for 2 inches for all sizes except for medium and large adult, which we'll do 3 inches of ribbing for. Okay, so keep working your knit and purl ribbing for 2 or 3 inches depending on what size you're making, and then we'll meet back here to move on to our next step. Okay, once you have 2 inches for your ribbing, or 3 if you're making the medium and large adult, it is time for our main stitch patterns. We're going to change to our larger needles. To do that, we are going to use our key and switch these out. Now, if you don't have interchangeable needles, you would just slip your stitches onto the new needle size and proceed from there. Okay, so with the larger needle size, we are going to start our main stitch pattern. So we'll start with a knit 2, and then we'll start our repeat across, which is purl 2, knit 2, and then just repeat those. Okay, at the end of row 1, we're going to turn and work row 2, which starts with purl 2, and then we start our repeat across, which is knit 2, purl 2. And turn your work. For row 3, we are repeating row 2. So we start again with purl 2, and knit 2, purl 2. Repeat those 4 across, knit 2, purl 2. Okay, now for row 4 is a repeat of row 1. So we start with knit 2, and then a repeat across, purl 2, knit 2. Okay, so now you're going to repeat those 4 rows. You can see how our stitch pattern starts to pop out here. So for each size, you're going to repeat those 4 rows until your glove measures from, you're going to measure from the start, from the edge of the ribbing up to where you're working. For the toddler size, 4 inches long. For the child size, 5. For the teen and small adult, 6. Medium adult, 7 inches long. And large adult, 8 inches long. And then from here, we are going to switch back to our smaller needles and finish up with 1 inch or so of ribbing. Okay, so work that out, and then I will do that off camera, and then we'll meet back to finish up our ribbing edge, bind off, and sew up our sides. Okay, once you've reached your length, it's time to switch out our needles to the smaller size and finish off with our ribbing. If you're just using straight needles or fixed cable needles, you can just slip your stitches over onto the new needle size, the smaller needle size. If you have interchangeable like me, we're just using our key to screw on our new needles and tighten it. Okay, so now we're going to finish up with 1 by 1 ribbing for about 1 inch for toddler, child, for all sizes, 1 inch of ribbing, and for the large size, 1.5 inches of ribbing on the small needle size. So knit 1, purl 1 across, and just repeat that 1 row for 1 inch or 1.5 if you're making the large size. And then we will do our bind off and move on to seaming. Okay, once you knit your last stitch for the ribbing, it's time to pull up a long loop and cut your yarn, leaving a long tail for seaming. Okay, now we're ready to seam, and for the different sizes, for toddler you're going to seam from the top down, which are short end of our ribbing, for 1.5 inches, and then you're going to leave 1.5 inches for the thumb, and then you will seam the last 2 inches for toddler. For child size, which is the one we're going to seam now, we're going to do 1.5, leave 2 inches, seam 2.5. For the teen small adult, it is start with 2 inches down, leave 2 inches, and then seam the last 3 inches. For the medium adult, it is 2.5 inches, leave 2 inches for the thumb and seam the last 3.5 inches. And then for large adult, it is seam 3 inches down, leave 2-inch thumb hole and seam the last 4 inches. Okay, so we are going to work on the wrong side. And this pattern is pretty reversible, so you don't have a specific wrong or right side, which makes it easy. Just thread our needle with the long tail we left and match up our sides. Now we're doing a bunch of different stitches because we're doing our ribbing and our stitch pattern. So you don't need to go undo the seaming any specific way. You can just do your basic go under 1 or 2 loops that you can catch on the side stitches, because we're going to flip it right side out and then you won't see the seam so much. So you don't have to do any fancy seaming method. If you want to, you go right ahead. We're just going to go use that end stitch and go under 1 or 2 loops back and forth, zigzagging there. When I get to a stopping point, I'm going to go ahead and do a locking stitch where I go back around into the same stitch to help secure it, and then I'll weave that end away there. I'm going to pick up my tail I left on the wrist end to start, and I'm going to use that to sew back up. You can join yarn here if you didn't leave a long enough tail, and just do the same start the same way I ended, which is with a locking stitch where you go back around. And finish up by going back around through the same spot there. And then I'll weave these ends away and I'll turn my gloves right side out and we'll be all finished.